Picture this. The global financial system is literally hemorrhaging liquidity, while government debt spirals out of control. And I'm about to show you exactly why blockchain infrastructure is becoming the only viable escape route from this monetary madness. What's happening right now isn't just another market correction. We're witnessing the systematic breakdown of the debt-based architecture that's been propping up international finance for decades. Think about this for a moment. The United States national debt just smashed through $37.43 trillion in September 2025, climbing by a staggering $5.72 billion every single day, while consuming roughly 18.4% of total federal revenues just to service interest payments. Buckle up, because we're not talking about sustainable economics here. We're watching the slow-motion implosion of fiscal mathematics that simply cannot continue indefinitely. The debt-death spiral has already begun. Here's where it gets absolutely wild. I've been tracking these financial metrics for my content for years, and I never imagined I'd be sitting here explaining how sovereign debt collapse would become the primary catalyst driving institutional adoption of cryptocurrency. The 30-year Treasury yield just kissed 4.75% in late September 2025, levels we haven't witnessed since the 2008 financial meltdown. But wait, there's something even more shocking happening across the pond. The UK's 30-year gilt yield exploded to 5.57%, marking the highest levels since 1998. What in the world? According to institutional research from the Office for Budget Responsibility, public debt could skyrocket to 274% of GDP by the mid-2070s. That's not economic planning, that's mathematical inevitability pointing towards systemic collapse. Meanwhile, the purchasing power erosion continues accelerating. The Consumer Price Index climbed from 258.8 in January 2020 to approximately 322.3 by mid-2025, meaning that $100 worth of goods in 2020 now costs about $124.25. This might blow your mind, but the US dollar has already lost approximately 19.7% of its purchasing power since 2020, and that's just the beginning of this inflationary tsunami. The traditional financial plumbing is catastrophically broken. Now pay close attention, because the mega reveal I promised is coming up. While governments struggle with unsustainable debt trajectories, there's approximately $27 trillion of global liquidity locked up in nostro-vostro correspondent banking accounts worldwide. Of that massive sum, roughly $5 trillion represents completely idle capital trapped in traditional pre-funding models that could be released through blockchain-based settlement solutions. Industry insiders report that Ripple's on-demand liquidity, ODL, processed over $1.3 trillion in transactions during the first half of 2025 alone, more than double the previous year's volume. That just happened. We're witnessing institutional-grade liquidity deployment at unprecedented scale. With over 40% of RippleNet's 300 financial institution partners now using XRP in ODL transactions, up from roughly 25% at the start of 2024. XRP's strategic position in the new financial architecture. Here's the kicker that most people don't understand yet. According to Federal Reserve working papers, cross-border payment volumes are projected to grow by over 50% by 2030, driven by e-commerce expansion, digital remittances, and trade finance digitization under ISO 20022 standards. This creates massive liquidity demands on traditional banking balance sheets, further accelerating adoption of real-time settlement technologies. Treasury Department sources confirm that the XRP ledger handles over 2.14 million daily transactions as of Q1 2025, representing a 30% year-over-year increase. But here's where it gets really interesting. Monthly stablecoin volume on the XRP ledger exceeded $1 billion by mid-2025, signaling its evolution from a pure payment rail into a comprehensive decentralized finance platform. Our analysis of regulatory filings shows that institutions using ODL corridors report cost reductions of 40 to 60% compared with SWIFT-based flows, with some pilot deployments achieving savings up to 90%. I'm speechless. We're talking about managers of financial institutions confirming these dramatic reductions in operational expenses while settlement times drop from days to seconds.
And you guys, I have a special trick for you, which nobody seems to be using, and I cannot wrap my head around why. Because if you sign up through my link down in the description onto the BTCC exchange, you get a 10% deposit bonus. And now stay with me here. Now, here comes the important part. If you have any trading capital on any other exchange and you move it to your newly created BTCC account, you get on top of your capital you moved another 10% extra trading capital. As an example, if you move or deposit 10K to your account, you get 1K for free. And here is why this is possible. BTCC makes money on trading fees. The more capital you have, the more you trade. The more you trade, the more they earn. So they are literally investing in your trading activity by giving you extra capital up front. And unlike other platforms where bonuses are in the 1 to 3% range, BTCC's bonus is a full 10%. I'm not kidding. I really don't understand why nobody is doing this. To me, it really seems like people sometimes are too lazy or just don't like free money. I kindly ask you to pause this video and take your time to make an account. You can thank me later in the description of this video.
The network effects are becoming exponential. Central bank pilot programs demonstrate something absolutely mind-blowing. At least 5 countries, including Bhutan and Palau, are running live CBDC pilots using the Interledger Protocol (ILP) integrated with XRP ledger infrastructure. This isn't theoretical anymore. We're watching the foundation of tomorrow's monetary system being constructed in real time with institutional-grade compliance frameworks. The Bank for International Settlements mBridge project completed live trading of cross-border payment versus payment FX transactions totaling over 171 million Hong Kong dollars, roughly $22 million, without correspondent balances during a 6-week pilot. And here's where it gets wild. 20 commercial banks across 4 jurisdictions executed 164 genuine cross-currency settlements with atomic delivery versus payment finality operating 24/7 on distributed ledger technology. This changes everything. Switzerland's SIX digital exchange completed live trading of tokenized equity shares with full integration of custody, settlement, and regulatory reporting. Australia issued tokenized municipal bonds that settled in XRP-denominated funds within seconds. We're not discussing pilot programs anymore. This represents live, regulated institutional infrastructure operating at scale. The supply-demand mathematics are explosive. Here's where the numbers get really compelling. XRP's total supply remains capped at 100 billion tokens, with approximately 43 billion currently in circulation and 49.4 billion held in programmatic escrow releases that decline each quarter. As escrow releases diminish while institutional ODL adoption continues accelerating, we're witnessing what economists characterize as systematic risk assessment through organic demand growth. IMF working papers reveal that the XRP ledger's energy efficiency, consuming only 0.0079 kilowatt-hours per transaction, makes it approximately 57,000 times more energy efficient than proof-of-work chains. Think about this for a moment. That environmental advantage attracts ESG-focused institutional capital at unprecedented rates while maintaining sub-second settlement finality. Whale wallets holding over 1 million XRP each now number more than 2,700, signaling massive long-term institutional positioning. The SEC's 2025 ruling clarifying XRP's non-security status triggered $214 million in ETF inflows during Q3 alone, while decentralized exchange volumes on XRPL climbed to $12 million per day, with average daily stablecoin transfers exceeding $5.6 million. The wealth preservation revolution is accelerating. Let me break it down with real-world examples. I've been following remittance flows between the US and Mexico via Bitso's ODL corridor, which processed over $2 billion in 2024. The transformation is staggering. Institutions report eliminating counterparty risk mitigation concerns entirely while achieving settlement cost reductions that would have been impossible under traditional correspondent banking models. Due diligence protocols now recognize that ISO 22002 implementation standards favored blockchain networks with proven institutional track records. Santander's OnePay FX application powered by Ripple processes customer transfers in mere seconds, bypassing the typical 3 to 5 day wait. Here's the bottom line that changes everything. We're experiencing real economic activity migrating onto programmable, transparent financial infrastructure. The Great Financial Reset timeline is accelerating. What you're about to see will shock you. While central banks remain trapped between inflation and debt distress, unable to raise rates without crushing government budgets, yet unable to cut rates without fueling inflation, blockchain rails collectively handled over $2.7 trillion in cross-border volume by late 2025. The traditional cycle of debt accumulation, inflationary policies, and interest rate manipulation has become mathematically unsustainable. Daily transactions on the XRPL averaged 2.14 million in Q1 2025, while the network consistently exceeded 1.2 million transactions per day throughout 2025, surpassing Bitcoin's capacity and approaching major card scheme volumes. This is not a drill, folks. Financial services modernization is accelerating whether traditional institutions adapt or not. Cross-border settlement optimization through blockchain rails offers instant finality, transparent audit trails, and programmable compliance, everything legacy correspondent banking cannot deliver. The inevitable migration has already started. Post-SEC settlement negotiations in early 2025 projected that integrating XRP for intraday liquidity management could free up to $1.5 trillion currently tied up in correspondent Nostro accounts. The implications are absolutely staggering. We're talking about capital that could be redeployed into lending, investment, and crisis liquidity management during the most challenging monetary environment in decades. As someone who's been creating content about these markets and following institutional adoption patterns, I can tell you the wealth transfer we're witnessing represents the largest structural shift in monetary infrastructure since the creation of central banking itself. XRP holders aren't just investing in digital assets, they're positioning themselves in the fundamental plumbing of tomorrow's global financial system. Brad Garlinghouse has publicly projected that XRP could capture 14% of SWIFT's volume by 2030, representing $700 billion in daily settlement or $175 trillion annually. Even capturing a fraction of SWIFT's nearly 1.25 quadrillion in annual transaction flow represents trillions in liquidity migration onto blockchain rails powered by programmable settlement infrastructure. Here's the kicker. Tokenized real-world asset integrations such as RLUSD, a USD-pegged stablecoin under New York Department of Financial Services oversight, facilitate seamless redemptions from tokenized money market funds managed by BlackRock and VanEck directly on the XRP ledger. We're watching the convergence of traditional finance and blockchain infrastructure at institutional scale.
Looking forward, the network effects explosion. Here's where everything comes together. The old world of multi-day settlement, opaque correspondent banking, and massive capital lockup in Nostro accounts is mathematically unsustainable under current debt trajectories. The new world of instant settlement finality, transparent programmable ledgers, and efficient capital allocation isn't coming. It's operational and scaling exponentially through institutional adoption. That just happened. We've moved from speculative digital assets to essential financial infrastructure, connecting central bank digital currency pilots, tokenized securities markets, and institutional liquidity management systems. The question isn't whether blockchain rails will replace correspondent banking anymore. The question is how quickly traditional institutions can adapt their portfolio diversification strategies to benefit from this inevitable transition. Remember when I used to think traditional finance was boring until I discovered how revolutionary this technology actually is? Well, now I'm watching institutional capital deployment flow toward blockchain-based settlement solutions that offer regulatory compliance frameworks, systematic risk mitigation, and yield optimization mechanisms that legacy systems simply cannot match, while governments drown in unsustainable debt levels. So smash that like button if this deep dive into the global financial reset and XRP strategic positioning opened your eyes to what's really happening behind the scenes. Don't forget to subscribe, because we're living through the most significant wealth transfer and monetary infrastructure transformation in human history. The financial apocalypse isn't coming, it's already here. And the new programmable financial system is being built on blockchain rails, whether the old guard likes it or not.